What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, this is a long overdue video, guys. Honestly, this is going to be a top 10 tag, and I was tagged like 2 or so weeks ago by Lisa Loves. Lisa, thanks for the tag. Sorry it's taken me so long to get onto this video, but we are here. I was also tagged by Jamie Powell. Now, this is a top 10 tag, 10 horror movie genres, and I've got to pick my favourite movies out of those 10 genres. So it's going to be a good one. I'm a big fan of horror, as you know, on this channel. Let's get on to this video. So, the beginning of my list, I'm going to start with Paranormal. Now, my favourite paranormal movie is The Exorcist. I think The Exorcist is basically a bona fide, perfect 10 out of 10 horror film. And I think it's downright unsettling. And it's got immense atmosphere. And it just looks incredible. The production design is unbelievable. I saw this film for the first time in 2017. And to me, watching the Blu-ray, it generally looked like a contemporary movie. It's aged incredibly well for a film that came out in 1973. Like I said, the production design is beautiful. The dialogue, the conversations, and the whole exorcism itself are just so now-bitingly tense. You really don't know what's going to happen next. And I remember being absolutely just aghast at the endings. I just didn't see that ending coming at all. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. But wow, to me, it is in my opinion, the greatest straight up horror film ever made, and it is my favourite paranormal horror film of all time. Next on the list, we have Zombie. Now, there's been a smorgasbord of zombie films in the last 30 or so years, and obviously George A. Romero, popularized the genre and made it kind of a relevant genre of its own with Night of the Living Dead. There's been so many great ones over the years that I could say, but my favorite is going to be George A. Romero's Day of the Dead, the final film in the original Dead trilogy. I just love everything about this movie. A lot of people might pick Dawn of the Dead as one of the greatest. It is one of the greatest zombie films, I will agree there, but my favourite has always been Day. I think Day has this claustrophobic atmosphere in there, and you're in this almost kind of like this military bunker almost, and it's all about the bleakness and the loneliness, and you're just, this character, she's just amongst these, pretty much most of them are kind of horrible people, and you just got this, this tightly knit bunch of people in this kind of military bunker almost, and it's just bleak as hell. And for me, I think this is when Tom Savini really let loose with his gore effects. The gore effects in Day of the Dead are some of the best ever, in my opinion. Really just disgustingly gruesome and brutal, and the whole gore bit at the end, where the sergeant gets torn apart, and it's just like Chokana, like one of the greatest gore sequences of all time, in my opinion. It's so nasty and so visceral and brutal, and the camera doesn't cut away from it. You see all of it happen to him, and it's brutal. I also love the whole Dr. Frankenstein-esque element, where you've got the doctor trying to kind of domesticate the zombies, and I think that's really, really cool. And you see, like, obviously you've got the zombie bub, which becomes like it's almost like the main kind of focused zombie in the film, kind of almost remembering human life, where he's got the headphones on, he's hearing music, and you see him reacting to it. Just so many great moments in that movie for me. And if you look at the research of this movie, it was originally going to be a more grandiose zombie film. It was going to be more of a, George A. Romero had this idea of domesticating zombies and having zombie armies, like actually going in and fighting wars and stuff like that. That sounded ridiculous, but The studio halved his budget at the last minute, so he only had, you know, half the budget that he was originally going to have to make this movie. And I think what he made was he kept it concise. He still had his ideas of like domesticating the zombie and stuff like that, and seeing, you know, do they still remember things of human life? Those kind of elements in there, and I think he made, in my opinion, my favourite zombie film of all time. I think it's one of the greatest zombie films ever, and no one liked it when it came out. Apparently it was panned to death when it came out, because Dawn of the Dead was more of this kind of a bit more of a fun horror movie, zombie movie, whereas Day is bleak as fuck. But yeah, love Day of the Dead, my favourite zombie film. Next on the list, I've got found footage. Not really a big fan of found footage. I find that a lot of them are a bit shit, to put it bluntly, right? But I generally think the film that surprised me, and it is still my favourite, when someone says found footage, this film comes up immediately, because I think it's pitch perfect found footage movie, and that is the Spanish zombie rabies-esque infection horror film Wreck, also known as, maybe, I don't know if it's actually called Recalled or not, but I've known it as Wreck, R-E-C. It's incredible. It is unbelievably good. I love everything about it, the way they've shot it. So obviously it's in first person and it's found footage, but they've made it as if, like, you know, you're following this fire squad, this team of fire people in this building, and it's just like tense from start to finish. Like, there's a moment in the beginning where somebody falls from like high up in the stories down the stairwell, and he hits the floor. You're like, holy fuck! Like, there's some great moments in this movie, and I can talk about the horrible attic dwelling monstrosity in this movie. Horrific. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. At the end of the film, this monstrosity of almost like case zero, almost like the main kind of culprit of causing this infection. This monstrosity, nightmare fuel, complete nightmare fuel. But this film, I think, is a perfect found footage movie. I can find myself putting it on time and time again and being engrossed as ever, like I was the first time. And I think it's an exceptional movie. And yeah, I know a lot of people in this during these tags have put stuff like Blair Witch Project and films like that, but I've never really been a fan of that film. But Wreck, for me, is a perfect found footage movie, and I love it. Next up is the genre no one likes, apparently. But yeah, torture porn. Not really a genre I would have put on this tag if it was me, to be fair. I would have swapped it out for something like Creature Feature or something. But if I was going to pick a torture porn movie, I see a lot of saws being mentioned in these tags of late. But for me, I think the best example of the genre, people might see this as torture for torture's sake, gore for gore's sake. But this film in particular I'm going to mention, I think is rather intelligent about it, and it's pretty horrific in the idea that these things probably happened in real life, and there's probably this shadowy organisation somewhere that does this, and that is horrific. I'm talking about Hostel from 2003. I love this movie. I'm just going to go out there. I love this film. I think it's so well made to the point where it has this shift halfway through the film where you introduce these characters, and they are scum. They are dickhead characters. They are some of the worst, horrible human beings I've ever seen. Like, they're just these kids. They're American. They go to this Scandinavian. Is it Scandinavia? I don't know where it is. They go to this country, and they're just dickheads. They're absolute dickheads for the whole film. Not a whole film, but there's a switch up in the middle where you start to kind of care about one of the main protagonists in this movie, and it becomes a series of things of him basically doing the right thing, and that's where I really enjoy this movie, where he's this like arrogant dickhead the first half of the movie, but then he becomes this kind of sympathetic character towards the end, and you kind of root for him as he starts to decide to do the right thing and save people and stuff like that. I just think it's a really great movie. I love when I saw this film, I'd never seen gore effects so realistic. When I saw this as a kid, younger, 2003, when I was like a young teenager, I hadn't seen gore like this. It was unbelievably good. unbelievably visceral. When he gets his fingers cut off, it's fucking nasty as hell. There's some nasty things in this movie. Like, this movie is not for everyone. It's not for the squeamish whatsoever. There's some brutally just rank stuff in this movie, and I say rank for a reason. There's some rank. You know, if you don't like eye trauma, don't watch this movie. Like, basically, if you don't like eye trauma at all, this has probably got the worst example of eye trauma I've ever seen. Don't watch it if you don't like eye stuff. It's fucking vile. But I love Hostel. I think it's a really good movie. I still enjoy it to this day. It's dark, it's bleak, it's viscerally just brutal. I'm not saying brutal in an ironic way. I'm saying it's brutal in the most visually fucking nasty way. Like I said about this kind of thing probably does happen in the world, is because Eli Roth, when he was researching, when he was thinking of ideas for a movie, he came across this kind of this shadowy website where you can go in. I think it's in China. You can go to China, pay $10,000 and shoot someone in the head. So he got that idea from this kind of weird thing he found on the internet. And I'm like, fuck me, like if that's a real thing, that's horrific. And that's why this film gets under my skin that little bit more than any just standard torture porn movie. So yeah, I love Hostel. I don't really agree with the torture porn moniker personally, because I think it's a more intelligent movie than that. I think it's more than just gore for gore's sake. I think it's a fairly intelligent film. But that's just me. Let me know down below if you like Hostel, or if you don't, let me know why you don't like it. I would like to hear your thoughts. But yeah, that's my torture porn pick, is Hostel. Next up on the list is Vampire. Vampire pick is easy for me. It's super easy for me because for me it's the coolest vampire film ever made. For me, and it's Fright Night. I love Fright Night from start to finish. I love where you got this guy. He watches a show called Fright Night on his TV, and then he kind of noticed that he's going to get a new neighbour. But he kind of thinks this new neighbour's a vampire, so he goes around trying to tell everyone, warn everyone, oh yeah, my neighbour's a vampire. And yeah, crazy shit ensues. It's just so delightfully enjoyable, this movie. So delightfully enjoyable. I love it. I love it. It's just so cool. And it is cool. I get this cool vibe from this movie. And yeah, it's really, really good. I really enjoy this movie. I think it's fantastic. The whole end climax is great. Everything about this film is top tier, in my opinion, for vampire movies. I know a lot of people pick like The Lost Boys. Love that film as well, but Fright Night takes the top spot for me. I love Fright Night. Vampire, I just think it's the coolest vampire film ever made. I love Fright Night. It's awesome. Next on the list is Werewolf. Werewolf was more of a difficult one because I think there's some really good werewolf films out there. But I'm going to go very generic with this pick. I'm going to pick American Werewolf in London because it was the first kind of werewolf film I remember watching, and I think it's still the one that I would put on now. And I think it's the one that I think has aged the best. I know there's some underrated ones like Dog Soldiers. I love Dog Soldiers, one of the most underrated werewolf films ever made. But I think American Werewolf in London is the one that I think just ages better and is more. I just think it's just easily rewatchable is what I'm getting at here. I'm just mumbling over my fucking words, guys. Yeah, I think it's just so rewatchable. I love everything about it. I love the main character. He's cool. I like the fact that he's getting haunted by his dead mate who didn't survive the werewolf attack, and now he's trying to like say, oh yeah, you're going to be a werewolf now. Like, I love that whole aspect of it, and I just think it's a really great monster movie, werewolf movie. It's got one of the greatest transformations of all time, in my opinion. Like the lengths they went to make the transformation look painful and horrible, and it's like, because if your body's metamorphosizing into this like wolf creature, it's not going to be like transform boom. It's going to be painful, and they really portrayed that, I think, in American Werewolf in London. They portrayed the transformation as really unpleasant and painful, and your bones are twisting, your body's breaking, your back is snapping in half, all this crazy shit. And I love it. I think it's great. And yeah, that's my werewolf pick for Werewolf. Next up is Home Invasion. Now, Home Invasion, I was going to pick a specific movie for this because it's my favourite home invasion, but it's also my favourite foreign horror film. So I've left that one for the foreign category. So basically, my favourite home invasion that's not the foreign one would be the Netflix original Hush. Hush is unbelievably good. Like, I've never felt so exhausted by the end of a movie than this. Like, literally forehead sweating, literally just exhausted. It was a intense experience from start to finish. I don't think I've ever rooted for a protagonist as much as the deaf girl in this movie. You want her to bloody get, you want her to basically survive and basically win over this absolute creep serial killer dude who basically just wants to toy with her and be an absolute dick. And for me, I've never hated an antagonist as much as this dude. The actor who portrays this the antagonist in this, he's so dislikable. He's so easily hateable, and yeah, you just fucking hate his guts. And I really did hate his guts. And yeah, this movie's got so many great moments. There's a moment where it almost like flips the movie almost and makes you think like something's happened when it really hasn't. Or there's a bit where it's just brutal, absolute fucking disgusting. And yeah, it's just like this non-stop heart pounding, edge of your seat, home invasion. It is top tier home invasion for me. It is one of the greatest, and I love it. Hush. If you've not seen Hush, I highly recommend it. It's so good. Performances are bang on, and yeah, it's just full of tension throughout. It's such a great home invasion film. Next up, we have Foreign. Like I said earlier, this foreign movie is also a home invasion film, but I didn't pick it for home invasion solely because it fits quite nicely in the foreign category, and that would be a film called Al Interieur, also known in English as Inside. This is a French extremity movement horror film, home invasion, and mate, it is the best example of a foreign home invasion film ever made, in my opinion. It's about a pregnant girl who gets into a car crash which kills her husband, and her baby is due to be born on Christmas Eve. It has no connotations of Christmas at all, so it doesn't feel like a Christmas movie. They just mention in the dialogue, it's Christmas Eve, your baby's due Christmas Eve, whatever. So it's basically about this woman. She's about to give birth to her child. She gets a knock on the door with this woman saying, "Oh, can you help me?" Blah blah blah. The pregnant lady, was like, "No, thank you, sorry. Can you please leave?" And then basically it's about this intruder breaking into the girl's house and basically trying to cut out and steal this pregnant lady's baby. This is the most intense and brutally visceral, just 100 miles an hour horror film I have ever seen. When it even got to when the credits rolled, I was just staring at the credits. I was absolutely just like, what the fuck did I just experience? But it is one of the greatest home invasion, just non-stop thrill ride movies I've ever seen. I will recommend it to everyone. It is very, very squeamish at times, so if you're not into some really nasty, violent shit, you might not like this movie. But I think the performances are great. The gore is next level. I think the stakes just keep rising and rising. Like the stakes just, oh mate, there is some like holy shit moments in this movie where the movie just keeps surprising you, like keeps throwing these curveballs at you, like what the fuck, holy shit. Like the stakes just keep rising and rising, and you keep asking yourself, how is this person going to get out of this situation? Because things just get bad to worse. It is so intense and so just non-stop that you will be exhausted by the end of this movie. I was literally exhausted, staring at the credits, going basically speechless, because I was so just invested in everything this movie gave me, and it is such a brilliant movie. And yeah, I'd recommend it to everyone if you're into your horror or into your home invasion for films. I think it's just unbelievably good, and yeah, it's probably my favourite modern horror film of all time. Just put it that way. Inside is absolutely 10 out of 10. I love this film. That is my foreign pick. Inside. I honestly, check it out. It is unbelievably good. Next up, we only got last two left now. Sci-fi. Sci-fi is fucking easy. See, like with sci-fi, I say it's easy, but then I think to myself, oh yeah, there's that other one that I might pick. But yeah, for me, it's Alien from 1979, Ridley Scott's masterpiece. I just think it's top tier, top tier science fiction horror, like absolute top tier. Everything about this movie is sublime. The pacing's perfect. The lead protagonist, Ellen Ripley, is masterfully portrayed by Sigourney Weaver. The alien itself is one of the most horrifically scary monsters of all the cinema, and it has one of the most iconic scenes of all time in the chestburster sequence, which is probably one of the most brutally and most bloody scenes of any movie for me. It's just so horrid in that, and I can imagine people seeing this for the first time in 1979 in cinemas and being absolutely scared witless by everything about this movie. But yeah, I just think it's great. I love the set design. I love the production design. I love the characters. I love the xenomorph itself. It's the most horrific thing ever, like I said, and I think it has some of the best pacing for a slow burn horror film ever. It is like everything, every frame and every scene is in this film for a reason, and I love this movie. It's brilliant. Alien is 10 out of 10. Again, is outstanding, and it is one of my favourite horror films of all time. The final pick is going to be a generic one, but it's going to be a fairly easy one to talk about. The final genre on this tag is slasher movie, and there's a lot of slasher movies that I absolutely adore, guys, but it has to be Halloween, right? It has to be. Halloween is pitch perfect. It's shot beautifully, it's acted wonderfully, it's got this overarching creepiness that is basically throughout the whole film. This atmosphere, the atmosphere permeates through the whole picture. You've got a wonderful antagonist in Michael Myers, one of the most dauntingly creepy, evil killers in all of horror films, in my opinion. And then you've got the soundtrack to wrap it up in this nice horrific bow. The soundtrack makes this movie. I think if Halloween didn't have John Carpenter's soundtrack and that iconic theme, I think it would take a lot away from this film. The soundtrack makes this movie, but also I think the villain makes this movie as well. Michael Myers is, wasn't just wasn't this overnight icon. He became this massive icon because of word of mouth and because people love this movie so much. And this movie is just a pitch perfect example of a 10 out of 10 slasher film. And I saw this in the cinema on Halloween a few years ago, and it was a wonderful experience because everybody was here for Halloween and it was so fun. Halloween for me is the best slasher film ever made. Generic answer, I know it's generic, but I couldn't pick anything else. I think Halloween is perfect. Is a perfect example. We wouldn't have the slasher genre as we know it today without Halloween. Halloween was that integral to the popularising the slasher genre. It didn't start the slasher genre, but fuck me, it popularised it to the point where we got Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, etc, etc. You get my point. Halloween is my favourite slasher movie in the horror genre. Hell yes, hell yes. That is my top 10 tag favourite movies from the horror subgenres. Let me know your picks down below, and I'm a bit late to the party, so I'm not going to tag anyone. I do apologise, but I think I've probably run out of people to tag. But anyway, yeah, as always, if you're new to this channel and want to see more, maybe become a subscriber, and maybe subscribe. Hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm, because it's the best way not to have Godzilla come and destroy your town. As always, I have been Jason, and I have got to watch some more horror subgenres. See you later.